Okay, one thing that you need to know in this unit is that there are three types of ions. And so the first type, they're called cations. And there's a couple different ways that you can remember what they are, but cations are positive, and you need to remember that. And so one thing that you can do is you can remember it. Now, the way that I do it is I use that when you have the word cation, you can't write cation without writing the positive charge in the name. So see the T there? That's like a positive charge. Cations are positive. Some people say that cations are, and I don't know if I can spell this right, but positive, like, a cat's paw. But whatever works for you. They're positive. Okay, now cations are formed when metals, so cations are metals, okay, that have lost one or more electrons. Remember this, that metals are losers. Metals are losers, okay? They lose electrons, okay? So, anyway, metals form the cations. Now, we're also going to learn a little bit how to name them, and it's pretty easy because you get a chart to help you name them, but they're named the same as the element, spelled exactly like it is in the periodic table. The only trick is that metals with more than one charge need a Roman numeral. So let's just go quickly into this naming here, and let me show you what I mean. All right? So, anyway, if you're naming an ion like zinc, okay, what you're going to do is you're just going to write down, like if it was like Zn plus 2, you're just going to write down zinc. But if it's copper, okay, and it's like copper like plus 1, you got to look right here and say, okay, copper has more than one charge, so that's going to need a Roman numeral. So you would go copper plus a Roman numeral 1. Now, the thing is, this isn't going to be so hard because you're going to get a chart. And let me show you what chart you get. So the chart that you get is on page 6 in your binder. So if you want to pause the video and find that chart, you're really going to need that chart. You could get that out and watch how I name these things, okay? So the thing is, these are not hard to name because you get this chart on the test and the names of the ions are right on the chart. So if you see like calcium plus 2, you go to the plus 2 part, you find the name, and the name is calcium. You just copy it down exactly like it is on the chart. Iron plus 3, you go and you find iron plus 3, and here it is right there, iron Roman numeral 3. So you write iron. Now, if it has a Roman numeral on the chart, you have to put a Roman numeral in the name. You can't just leave it off. The thing is, there is also iron plus 2, but this one's iron 3 plus, so that's this one down here, the Roman numeral. The Roman numeral matches the charge, like Roman numeral 3, iron 3. Notice calcium did not get a Roman numeral, so don't put one with it if it's not with it on the chart. Okay, like zinc, if you look, it just says zinc, so you just write down zinc. Copper 1 plus, I kind of cut that one off, but if you look at your chart on page 6, it's just going to say copper, and it's going to have a Roman numeral 1 after the name, so you got to write it. Okay, use the ion chart to help you write the names. Okay, so there's that. Now, the second type of ion form, those are called anions. Now, anions are nonmetals, okay, and they have a negative charge, okay, and nonmetals form anions. Now, their naming is a little bit different, but you get the chart to help you do it, so you shouldn't make a mistake. They end in "ide." You write the root name followed by "ide," but you get the charge. Okay, once again, anions are negative. That's the thing that you got to remember. Anions are negative. Okay, that's important to remember. All right, so let's just practice naming them. So if you could get out page 6, okay. So over here, this is just a little bit of a review from the first one, but nitrogen has 7 protons and 7 electrons. But when nitrogen becomes an ion, the protons don't change but it gains 3 electrons. Remember that? That's why it's -3. Okay? This is called nitrogen. Okay? But if you look at page 6 on your chart here, you will see that N3-, that's not called nitrogen. Okay? It's called nitride. Ends in IDE. This down here is neutral carbon. But C4-, that's going to be called carbide. Okay, these names are right on the ion chart, except they're on the negative side of the chart. This is the negative side with the anions. This is the positive side with the cations. Okay, so that chart will help you name these elements. Okay, so anyway, let's go to a couple other things here. We already did that one. All right, let's name these right here. So just use your chart. The oxygen anion, that's called oxide, spelled exactly like it is on the chart. P3-, phosphide, spelled exactly like it is on the chart. Notice the "ide" ending on these. N3-, nitride. Br-1, bromide. The negative ions are named just like they are from the ion chart on page 6 in your binder. Alright? Okay, so we did that. Now, the third type of ion is called a polyatomic ion. Okay, now they are found on page 6 in your book. You name them just as they appear on the chart. Okay? So if you look at page 6 in your binder, you'll notice on the anions, several of them are called polyatomic ions. Poly means more than one ion. So polyatomic ions have more than one atom in them. So like nitrate, if you look at nitrate, it's NO3, 1-. Okay, it's a polyatomic ion because it has more than one atom. This whole nitrate thing has a 1- charge. Okay, so there are several polyatomic ions in the anions. There's only a few in the cations. Most cations are just from the metals, but there is ammonium right here. That's an important one, and hydronium, which will be important later in the year. But those are the only 2 real positive ions that we deal with most of the time. But there are several negative anions that are polyatomic, like sulfate, SO4 2-. Okay, so you can see all those there on page 6. All right. So if you had to name these, you just got to look at the chart, and you'd say, okay, SO4 2-, that's called sulfate. NH4 +1, that's called ammonium. NO3 is called nitrate. It's named just exactly like it is in the chart. OH -1 is hydroxide. Okay, this one is kind of a confusing one. Sometimes this one's called acetate, and there's 2 ways to write it. A different way to write it, I think, like on your chart, is C2H3O2 -1. I think that's the way it's written on your chart. It's the same thing as this. That's called acetate. They're named exactly like they are in the chart. What happens though is somebody doesn't pay attention, and they'll try to name this like sulfur, tetra, oxide, something. Okay, but it's not that way. It's just called sulfate, spelled exactly the same it is on page 6. Okay, so 3 types of ions: cations, positive; anions, negative; polyatomic ions, more than one atom ions. They're named just like they are on page 6, so use page 6 to name them. That's it.